starting off my video holding a cup of coffee to show I'm relatable to the masses. This isn't even coffee. Okay, people, so today I want to talk about how to find your photography niche and what it says about you. All right, because if you already have something you're specifically interested in, what does that mean? What can I glean from that? What sort of assumptions can I make about you based off what type of photography you do? And you might be wondering, well, why is that even important? Can I just be like a general shooter? You can be a general shooter, absolutely. But it might be fortuitous to perhaps consider specializing in something you're more interested about so that you can further develop skills in that specific area to which you can become more proficient in theory, attain more enjoyment out of that specific activity that you chose. Also, choosing a specific area that you want to focus in on helps a lot with purchasing decisions, because different areas of photography obviously come with different challenges and different gear that best suits each situation. So without any further, okay, we're gonna start off small. We're gonna start off tiny with micro photography. What is micro photography? Micro and macro photography get confused a lot. Let me simplify it for you. Micro photography is when you take pictures of really small things and you try to make it look bigger, like insects. That is micro photography, making a small insect appear big. Now on macro photography, that's just taking very close-up pictures of bigger things. Like if you've ever taken a picture of your eyeball, like in 2015 Instagram, everybody used to do. I know you did too. I know I've seen your post. Everybody had an eyeball picture up on Instagram at one point. That would be macro photography, right? That's gonna be taking a close-up of something bigger to show the detail or to show the texture of a larger subject. Okay, now what does micro photography say about you? Now I'm gonna pass on the opportunity to make a really easy joke, because that's just not me personally. That's just not me. I don't take the easy, low-hanging jokes. Y'all can make that in the comments. That's up to you. Micro, taking pictures of small things, trying to make them look big. So basically every guy ever. So if you're into micro photography, what does that even say about you? Well, you were probably that person walking down the street, always looking down on the floor. That was you growing up. You were just looking at the floor, seeing all the little things, all the details, the textures, you know, all the little wires and loose scraps around the ground, and you're just fixated on that. You're probably really turned on by textures and by subtle details, and then you're like, I want to capture that. And so you probably naturally found your way to micro photography. Good for you. Now, if you're into macro photography or taking pictures really up close to bigger things, you were probably just not loved enough as a child. I mean, you just crave that personal close affection. Think about it. It makes sense. It makes sense. Think about it, but don't cry. If that's just you, just own it, and we'll move it on. So after micro, macro, we going on to baby photography, little tiny infants. If you're into this, you're probably had a kid at one point, because there's no way you've never had to have your own kid and you want to be taking pictures of other people's babies. How would you even know what to look for real? Baby photography is very difficult, I hear, as babies are very difficult, which makes sense because they can't listen and they can barely do. So good luck to you, because that's a hard combination to work with. But, you know, mad respect to those who pull it off and make it look cool. You know, I mean, babies are inherently cute, so you have a little bonus going your way. You know, you don't have to worry about the baby looking ugly, because if you think that, anyway, what's next after baby photography? Well, we just move on to like portrait photography. Normal sized or not normal sized people that you want to take pictures of. If you're into portraits, you're probably like everybody else who's probably started off doing portraits. The first thing you did was get a 50 f1.2. You cranked it down to f1.2, and then you took a picture with a blurry background of your friend or yourself if you didn't have any friends, and then you're like, whoa, I can do this. That's how it starts. Portrait photography is almost the default photographer. people just assume, oh, you take pictures, take a picture of me. What does it say about you if you're into portrait photography? Well, you're definitely not introverted, because let me tell you something. You're never gonna have the confidence to go up to a stranger or to hire a model or even ask your friends to go on a photo shoot to take pictures of them if you're really shy or really introverted. So you have to at least tolerate other people to get into portrait photography. All right, moving on to the next. The natural progression from human portraits is, of course, animal portraits, right? People got dogs, they got cats, they got hamsters, and they've got reptilians crawling around in their house. So, what does that say about you if you're into taking pictures of animals? Well, it means you probably own an animal, because if you ask anybody to show you a picture of their animal, of their pet, they're gonna have a picture. They're gonna have plenty of pictures, too many pictures. But if you ask them to show you a picture of a family member, they don't got that. It's gonna take them 30 minutes and 4 apps to go through to try to find an old picture of somebody from their family. But their cat, but their animal, their pet, they got that. This goes into everything, not just pets. Even if you're into equine photography or horse photography or any other sport that involves an animal, it might just be horses. Another one's not dog sled racing. If you're into dog sled racing, you probably have a picture of your pet. It's probably your lock screen, and you probably live in the north, potentially. But if you do have a dog sled team and you are near the equator, reach out to me, because I have some questions for you that I want answered. Moving on to the next, wildlife photographers. Oh yes. Now these people are creme de la creme. To be a wildlife photographer, or at least to be good at it, takes knowledge, discipline, great know-how of animals, and then also a lot of money. If those sound like you, you're probably a wildlife photographer. And you probably live somewhere that's interesting and that actually has wildlife. I don't know where you're from, but we got a lot of squirrels out here. I have hundreds of squirrel pictures. I'm taking other types of pictures. I see a squirrel, snap. It's in my camera. And I can't delete it for some reason, because it just feels like if I delete it, I'm killing this animal. And I don't want to have that hanging over my conscience while I'm doing other things. Why is it that every time I see a duck too, I immediately stop what I'm doing, I'm panning, and I'm following that duck all the way down till it lands, because I just need that picture. There's something very innate about wanting to capture wildlife. You see it and you're like, whoa, this is special, unique animal. Almost everybody who did photography, I think, wants to be a wildlife photographer, but they just can't make it pay for itself. And by all means, give it a shot. If you want to spend money on a 200 to 400 or a 400 to 800 lens, or if you have like $60,000, you can get like the Canon 50 to 1000 that all the wildlife documentaries are shot on. Shout out to all y'all for sleeping in tents and harshing the elements. Moving on. The next category on the list are landscape photographers. Yes, AKA wannabe wildlife photographers without the budget and time. This is a juggernaut of the photography community because it involves one of these 3 types of people: retired, social anxiety ridden people who don't like talking to people or being around animals, or 3, you just like to wake up early. Who doesn't want to have an epic desktop background that they took of, the Windows XP scene? Like, everybody wants to have taken that picture. You probably also like to travel, because everybody who's ever been to Greenland apparently is a landscape photographer. Landscapes are cool if you have a cool landscape, probably. If you live in like Kansas or Illinois or any other really flat state, there's not much landscape to photographize. It's really not. Okay, so what if you want to do landscapes, but you can't because there are stupid big concrete, steel, and glass buildings all around you? So if you do cityscape photography, you definitely do not live in that city, because everybody who lives in that city sees that every day. It's not worth photographing. You're more likely to do street photography than cityscape photography. How many different shots of the skyline can you possibly want? You have it once, and then you kind of scratch that itch, and then you never want to really shoot that again. So I'm gonna have to say you're definitely from probably the suburbs if you do cityscape photography. You're like 30 to 40 minutes out. You can go make it a day trip. You're going and you're just taking pictures of the whole city. But you're probably too scared to go directly into the city because, let's face it, you're from the suburbs. You're too scared. What if something happens to you? What if your expensive camera gets stolen or you get stabbed on a train? You know, you're outside the limits. You're taking a picture of the whole thing. You're hoping one day they're going to use your picture as the backdrop to some brochure, some travel brochure saying visit our city, and then you're hoping that picture right there on the front of the 4 folded over brochure that you find at gas stops and stuff, you're gonna hope that's your picture. That's pretty much the dream of every cityscape photographer. Now, if you actually live in the city, you're not doing cityscapes. What you're doing is architecture photography. You love taking pictures of buildings. That's your thing. You're probably also really into math and science. That's you. You like the straight lines. You like the old cathedrals. You like buildings. You get thirsty for cement. You get thirsty for flying buttresses. You love a good spire. You love a good Roman arch. These are all things that you got on lock. You got an eye for these things. The way you look at a building is different from everybody else. You look at a building like it's prey. You look at a building like, oh yeah, I could capture that. How you look at a building, you analyze it like, oh man, I'm definitely gonna have to use my 14mm lens, and I'm gonna have to do a 2-shot panorama HDR photo merge, and then it's gonna look perfect because you have to fit in the whole building inside of your frame. Now, that's a really fun kind of thing to shoot because you can shoot the same subject 100 times because as long as the weather changes, it's gonna look different. What's cool about architecture photography is you never run out of subjects. You can take architectural photos of a tiny shack in the back of somebody's house, or you can do it of a grand cathedral or of a bridge. All of this falls under architecture photography. Moving on to the street photography. Raise their hands if you do street photography, AKA everybody with a smartphone. Walking down, boom, boom, boom. Of course, all your pictures are of the back of people's heads because you're way too nervous to actually take a picture and have somebody think you took a picture of them. You are riddled with fear or have so much confidence, you probably need to chill a little bit. So if you do street photography, what does that mean about you? Well, it probably means you wish you had more confidence than you do. And you probably read a lot of self-help books and you're trying to work through things in order to become more confident of a person, to go up and talk to people and take their pictures, and then also lift a camera in front of a stranger. And those who do it well, we can tell. And those who don't, we can tell. Moving on, plant photography, AKA flowers and bushes and shrubs and trees. If you're into this, you definitely study horticulture. You definitely can name the binomial nomenclature of different flowers and species from around your area. You are a little bit of a plant nerd. You are a purist and you love plants. Plant photography is probably one of the most common yet slept on types of photography because have you ever taken a picture of a flower? You probably have. Have you ever went back to look at that picture? No, you haven't. Everybody could take a picture of a flower, but taking one good enough to warrant re-review, that takes skill because we see plants every day. We see grass every day, trees. So to make something that we have so much exposure to look interesting, that's a skill. If you're a plant photographer, you definitely know the exact best angle to take a picture of a blade of grass. And congratulations to you. Now go eat a salad because you probably love that. So after plant photography, we're going off the ground into aerial photography. Congratulations. You own a drone or a helicopter. If you do aerial photography, you probably got into it because you had the money to get into it. When drones first became widely available, I don't know if you remember this, everybody was an aerial photographer. They shot it up in their backyard, they took a picture of their suburb, and they're like, look how amazing it is from up here. And then you responded in their comments, is this from Google Street View? And they were mad. You know, they were mad, but can you really argue with them? All right, so you're an aerial photographer, man. Congrats. But what does that say about you? Well, it means you got money and that you probably live by a body of water. Congrats. Speaking on water, we're moving on to our next underwater photography. Now, what does it take for you to take? So what does it mean for you to take $5,000 to $100 million worth of camera equipment under the water. You have to be a special type of person to do underwater photography. However, what it also means is that you live by the coast. You must live by the coast. There's no way in hell anybody from the interior of, let's say, the United States is doing underwater photography. You are definitely scuba certified. You've definitely tried every other type of photography, and nothing gave you the thrill of death quite like submerging yourself and all your gear underwater. You watch every episode of Shark Week. You love the aquarium, but you hate all the people in the aquarium because they didn't take their hundreds of thousands of dollars of camera equipment in the water. It's behind glass. Does that count? Is that still underwater photography? You tell me. You can't be. How do you trust your gear inside like plastic and rubber containers? Like, what if a gasket leaks? The next category of people truly scare me. As a human being, being around these types of people is like having an energy drink shot into your blood every 5 minutes for the whole day. And these are extreme weather photographers, tornado chasers, volcano divers, tsunami surfers, these people who take pictures of extreme weather phenomenon. All y'all are dope. Y'all cool as hell. I'm not gonna lie. If you have really cool pictures of a tornado, I'm thinking highly of you because that takes a certain level of commitment that a lot of people wish they had but don't. If you do extreme weather photography, you definitely own a truck and you definitely need to up your life insurance because thank you for sharing these amazing photos. I hope we can enjoy it while you last. I'm gonna let you guys keep on doing what you're doing, but I'm gonna enjoy it from afar. Now, the exact opposite of an extreme weather photographer is a fashion photographer. If you're a fashion photographer, you are privileged. It means you can be around fashion people and not be made fun of. As photographers, all we really wear is black. We try to blend in with the crowd. We try not to get noticed. That's not our thing. We might have a vest on to show that we're serious, a little photographer's vest, but that's about it for photographers' fashion. But fashion photography is the complete opposite. You love colors, you love fabrics, and you love the studio. Fashion photographers have the entire color wheel memorized. They can tell you tertiary complementary colors. They can tell you opposing color theory views, and they have it all on lock. It's all about accuracy and sexiness, which is a cool field to get in if you can get your foot in the door. Except you're not getting your foot in the door if you have some janky little Vans on. You're gonna have to be wearing the Rick Owens, bro. You gotta have to be wearing the Tabbies. You definitely gotta be wearing the Pradas. You have to have your foot in the door, but your foot be worth getting into the door as well. You get to be around people who know exactly what they want all day. You likely live deep smack dab in the middle of the city. You don't own a car. You're scared to do it every day in case you mess up. Moving on to product photography. If you do product photography, you own a lot of lights. You have like 10 tripods. You hate your job. You loathe editing. Your worst nightmare is Chrome. Your worst nightmare are mirrors. Your worst nightmare are emails from corporations. It's unlikely you chose to do product photography, but it chose you, and it won't let go because it's steady money with zero creativity. Two types of product photography. The white background Amazon catalog product photography, or the stylized backdrop, create a whole scene to show off a deck of cards. Okay, so that's products. Next, we have sports photography. You definitely played that sport and weren't good enough to stay in that sport. I'm sorry, that's just kind of how it is. You have to have a little sympathy for sports photographers because trying to stay focused for an entire 2-hour match or for 500 back and forth serves, staying focused for that long to get good pictures consistently is an absolute nightmare. So you definitely have strong shoulders, you have some strong arms, and you probably wear a wrist brace if you are in sports photography. Yeah, I mean, what can I say about wedding photographers that the bride hasn't already screamed at them? You know, you have great communication skills, likely. You probably are very versatile in what type of shots you take. You probably have a mixture of all of these. Portraits, probably some architecture, some landscape, some detail shots. You're kind of the Swiss Army knife of photographers. If you're a wedding photographer, you're definitely insured, and you probably haven't had a good night's sleep since last winter. Working late hours and then editing even later hours, and that's just your job, and you chose this, even though you're probably dreaming of switching to a different type of photography, you're already 5 years in deep, and it's kind of too late to rebrand yourself. Everybody knows you and asks for weddings. You get referrals all the time because everybody wants a wedding photographer. All right, that's going to be the end of the video. Thank you for watching. Did you learn something new? Because I didn't. Are you one of these photographers? Are you a micro, macro, baby, portrait, animal, wildlife, landscape, cityscape, architecture, street, plant, aerial, underwater, extreme weather, fashion, product, sports, wedding, or event photographer? If so, please leave a comment explaining exactly how I'm wrong and how your specific branch of photography is the hardest and takes the most skills, because I'll definitely read all of those. I'll read absolutely every single one of your long paragraphs. Yeah, that's it. Cool. Take care. Bye-bye.